beyond KPA operations. Over the year, the course portfolio and has expanded facilities and the training capacity to address the training needs of both. This has enabled a drastic increase in the numbers trained, raising the Honorable Speaker, of that question. Bandari Maritime Academy trains in both modular and short courses. Modular courses generate skills for trainees who work as officers, while there are hundreds of other Kenyans who pursue other seafaring courses, careers under the IMO regulations to allow for employability at sea. The statistics below indicate the numbers trained at Bandari Maritime Academy since inception in 2019. Your Excellency and Right Honorable Speaker, I have provided a table with clear numbers of the trainees since 2019 for the different courses, which is clearly in page 3 of my presentation. And it goes on up to page 4. However, I just want to give an example. The number of seafarers that have been engaged in local and international markets, for example, in last year, we had 1,450 seafarers, and 2023, as we speak now, we have 320 who have been engaged, giving a total of 1,770. But when you get the entire total of seafarers trained, it will number to slightly above 5,000. Part C of the question, the Academy has developed various courses and programs that are on demand and required by seafarers. The Academy has enhanced its capacity to train at least 5,000 seafarers per year in both the short-term and long-term courses as shown in the achievements and statistics above. The Academy has been approved by the following agencies to train in various courses which are ongoing. They registered by TVETA, and the courses approved as in the TVET institutions. It has been approved by KMA to train seafaring courses, specifically 16 courses, approved by National Transport and Safety Authority to train for port operations and cargo lifting. It has been approved by NITA to train in low-level skills also required by seafarers such as plumbing. Courses in BMA are approved by the Kenya National Qualification Authority for International Comparativeness. Examinations in BMA are conducted by various agencies such as BMA, NEC, NTSA, and NITA. Training equipment and resources. The Academy has workshops and classrooms for various trainings, like in seamanship workshop, maritime engineering workshop, mechanical engineering workshop, and 22 classrooms. The other equipment available is simulations, training boats. We also have port operation equipment, forklifts, terminal tractors, gantry crane, driving school equipment. Where equipment and resources are inadequate, the Academy has engagements with Kenya Shipyard, Kenya Coast Guard Service, and Kenya Ports Authority to use existing facilities for training. The Academy has also engaged various shipping lines through signing of MOUs, notably by CMS, CGM, MSC, for sea-time training, which is critical for employability. The facilities available are able to train over 5,000 for the short courses annually and over 250 in the modular courses annually. The Academy therefore has capacity to train more than the 250 seafarers per year as mentioned in the inquiry. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and honorable members of the Senate. Thank you.
Senator Sigei, you would have, you're allowed to raise a maximum of 2 supplementary questions that relate to the original questions if you have any, and then we'll allow other senators to ask supplementary questions thereafter.
Honorable Speaker, I would rather allow my colleagues to ask than I close by asking any supplementary question once you've allowed any member, if any, to ask a question.
Very well, Senator. Senator George Mungai. Senator Boni Kalwale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the minister is aware that the top busiest seaports in the world, without going through the order, namely Singapore, Brussels, and a number of other seaports that are the top, they are in countries that are facing a crisis of youth, countries that don't have youth. Now that we are churning out 5,000 qualified children from this, who are likely to be employed in these world top seats, what are you doing to help our children to secure jobs in Brussels, Singapore, Germany, US, who don't have children, including Dubai?
CS, you can respond to that question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and Honorable Boni Alwale. And on this matter, Mr. Speaker, I want to put the record straight for the nation. First of all, what we are doing in the State Department of Maritime and Shipping, we have entered into MOUs with the international shipping lines so that when the seafarers are trained, we attach them to the international shipping lines. As we speak, Mr. Speaker and honorable members, last month we were able to flag 500 seafarers who are employed by shipping lines plying the routes in Dubai, in America, Miami, in South Africa, Durban, and other countries. So through the MOUs with the shipping lines, we are able to secure jobs for Kenyans in the various shipping lines internationally. And that is why, Mr. Speaker and honorable members, it is important that we continue to build the capacity of Bandari Maritime Academy so that we can have more youth trained. And right now, what we have initiated in the State Department is an awareness creation program which will run in all regions so that the youth can be able to know what kind of qualifications are required. And of course, as we build the capacity of Bandari Maritime Academy, then we are able to comply with international regulations and international policies. So I want to confirm that the opportunities in Singapore and in many other countries, we are able to harness this through the MOUs that we have entered with the Mediterranean shipping line, with other shipping lines that are very active internationally. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, CS. Senator Julius Murgu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to ask a question and a half. May I know from the CS as to what the ministry is doing to make counties and local areas aware of what minerals they have in their areas, because some of them, because of illiteracy and lack of many situations that would make them aware or give them capacity to be able to be aware what they have, cannot be able to know what exactly. And therefore, giving an opportunity to advantage takers who come and exploit the locals because of the fact that they are not aware. And then half question is, how can you give assurance of investors? Because there is sometimes a time that an investor comes and then he's invaded by greedy interest person, especially local, particularly politicians, people that do not really want others to invest if they are interested in one way or the other. How can you give assurance to an investor who is interested to employ people on the ground and so on, and yet there is a greedy politician who wants to bulldoze such an investor out of the scene?
Maybe we'll take a second question, Wazir, and then you can answer the two questions. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the CS for his appearance and the response that he has brought to the House. This is a very important topic that you're discussing. While the conversation centered majorly on Bandari College, of course, any prudent minister will also plan for eventually what happens to these students after they are done with the college. Therefore, the question I wanted to ask the good minister is if his ministry has sent any condition, set any conditions precedent before any shipping line is allowed access into our waters, to give them perhaps a target. I know he has said there's a policy and they make requests to them, but I believe that part of the conversation that we need to have in a increasingly growing competitive global market is that you need to have an agreement before, if they give the licenses annually or biannually, depending on the frequency, an agreement with the international shipping lines on the number of seafarers that they can take. Otherwise, his response is adequate on the number of people that they are training. But you do appreciate that this is a highly specialized skill or training where you can only secure jobs where the waters and ports, as has been observed. Secondly, is just in line with what Senator Boni Halwale had previously asked, whether they, as a State Department, have got any protocols or proposals that they are giving to foreign governments, especially those that share, those that have a trade imbalance with Kenya, on availability of these specialized skills for people to work in their ports. Is it part of what we sign? There are countries that we trade with, and they have significant trade imbalance with Kenya, yet they are known to operate some of the world's best and busiest ports. When we, as part of trying to even out the trade imbalance that exists between our countries and those specific countries, are the graduates of this college, do they feature in that conversation as part of those that they sign on and secure jobs for? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Waziri can answer the questions from Murgo and the Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and honorable members. There's this question about which revolves around awareness. And as I read in my statement, the State Department of Shipping and Maritime has now begun a comprehensive campaign to create awareness. And part of this awareness has been targeted to county governments, because we have identified county governments as a critical partner in this particular issue of seafarers training, and some of them have already committed resources to support their youth in these particular causes. We have also reached to members of parliament. In fact, some of them have also made commitments and have been part of the schedule. Previously, the recruitment and training of seafarers was not very clear to Kenyans, and that is why we are running this program, and I'm sure in the next financial year, it will be a very robust program to create awareness so that then people can be very much aware about how they can be seafarers. For example, most of the seafarers' requirements are very basic. For example, some of them are plumbers, some of them are pool attendants, but before they become seafarers, there are a number of courses that they have to undergo, and that is where the issue of awareness and local investments comes in. So I think this is a program which is already ongoing, and as we progress in the new financial year, it will be enhanced to cover the entire country and to use any available space to make sure that we create awareness, and also to enhance the institutions doing the recruitment, to make sure that the recruitment is transparent and above board. I think the other issue about investments, even though the question was not very clear, what I want to say is that investments targeting shipping and maritime are also regulated by various regulations, including the IMO. And right now what we are doing is that we are profiling the key opportunities that exist in the maritime sector, and we are inviting investments in that particular sector. For example, what we are doing in Liwatoni, even though it's a blue economy activity, there will be a lot of maritime regulations that will be enhanced to make sure that those investments are protected by the law. We are also looking at the possibility of having investments in the shipyard so that then Kenya can also have an opportunity to provide space for dry docking and maintenance of vessels. So I think those are some of the efforts that we are doing to make sure that we inspire investments. But we also work with the other agencies of government. For example, in the area of tourism, we are also looking up to how we can inspire investors in cruise ship so that then we can also be able to explore our opportunities and potential in that particular sector. I heard something about investments in mining, if I'm not wrong, Mheshimiwa. In mining, what we are doing to enhance and protect investments, first of all, the country has just concluded the geosurvey data, which has identified 970 mineral occurrences across the country. And occurrences are indications. So right now we have embarked on a ground truthing exercise where we have gone back to various counties to confirm the occurrence of minerals and their economic value. So when we do that, then it is a one way of protecting investments from a situation where they didn't have data. Now they can have reliable data that they can use for investment. And then we are also working on the online cadastre, which basically will provide a platform for applications of mining licenses licensing process which will be transparent and encouraging investors to go to the portal and apply. Currently, we want to link this online cadastre with key government services like in KRA, so you can, at one stop, you can be able to apply and make the necessary payments through eCitizen. In fact, right now, we have been working on the stamp duty, so that once we conclude that, then we can have a platform that can make the applications for license much easier. So I hope that was just a side issue, because today I came here to speak issues of shipping and maritime, but I thought it was important to update members and the nation on what we are doing. We are also running a robust artisanal mining program where we are transforming artisanal miners groups into cooperatives so that we can have an opportunity to organize them and they can be able to benefit from other services in government and also in the private sector. So we are doing this to create an enabling environment for mining investments in the country. On the other question by Honorable Boni Alwale on the issues of, from Honorable Aaron Cheruyot on these issues of seafarers and conditions for shipping lines, what we have done is that in the MOUs we are very specific with the shipping lines on the recruitment. For example, the MOU with the Mediterranean Shipping Line, we have made provision for recruitment of seafarers annually, and we have put a figure of 1,500 for that particular shipping line. So this then becomes one of the areas of partnership, so that then they are able also to employ our youth in the country. The other thing we are doing, especially with Qatar and South Korea, part of the negotiation protocols bilaterally in the areas of shipping and maritime, we are also negotiating with them on the number of youth who can get opportunities in Qatar and South Korea. So that is just an example. And once we have the numbers, then now we utilize the capacity in Bandari Maritime Academy to prepare them to qualify for these particular jobs that we are negotiating. Other than that, we are also working with the Ministry of Labor, because we also know that seafarers have been working and challenged in some conditions. And already we have a joint CAB memo with the Ministry of Labor to streamline the issue of working in the diaspora in terms of welfare and in terms of also other issues that have been affecting them. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and honorable members.
Thank you, Waziri. Senator Mohammed Abdallah Shakila.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question goes to the CS regarding the fishing sector. When the President was giving his keynote during the opening of this House, he mentioned that he's going to improve the fishing sector. Maybe the Minister can tell us what his ministry is doing to improve the fishing sector, whereby we are able to tap all the opportunities and the resources available in fishing sector, because as we're talking now, our resources are being taken by the trawlers, which are foreign trawlers. And that is something which it could be done within our country and improve our economy in terms of fishing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I think it is important we remember that we limit our the supplementary questions to maritime affairs. But I will allow that question. Senator Cherargei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My question to the CS concerns the role of counties, especially in partnership of boat training and work of seafarers, Mr. Speaker, especially to counties along our coast, the northern, the coastal part of the country. What is the role of the counties? Because I believe, Mr. Speaker, it is not the exclusive mandate to some level for the national government to do it, Mr. Speaker. And finally, Mr. Speaker, what, like for example, Mombasa Port, which is their sister port, that they pick the best practices in terms of shipping and maritime, for example, like Miami International Port in the US and Singapore Port, as Senator Boni has mentioned. What partnership to ensure that there are best practices in terms of running of maritime and shipping and improving the efficiency of our Mombasa Port, among others in the country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Waziri, you can respond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and honorable members. The question that has been posed by Honorable Amina Abdallah, Honorable Senator, and you rightly observed, Mr. Speaker, that today we came for maritime. I think there's a day I came here for blue economy and fisheries, and I gave a comprehensive report on what we are doing in the Blue Economy and Fisheries State Department. However, because this is a question which I'm sure she's asking on behalf of the residents in Lamu County, I will respond to this question, and because also it's good for the nation to be aware of what we are doing in fisheries. First of all, in the blue economy and fisheries sector, we have said that this is a critical area that we need to spur investments. And therefore, we have divided the investments in terms of medium level and high level. Medium level focusing on artisanal fishermen. And for artisanal fishermen, for example, we have zoned the country and the blue space in the Indian Ocean, in Lake Victoria and other lakes into critical areas for investment. For example, in coast region, we have looked at the entire area from Lamu to Kwale. And in Lamu, for example, we have said that in that entire Indian Ocean, we will be able to work with county governments so that we are able to develop landing sites that could be a first point for value addition. So we have zoned from Mokoe for Lamu County. We have looked at Kipini in Tana River. Kilifi, we have Ngomeni and Kichwa Chakati. We have Kidongo in Mombasa. We have other areas in Kwale County like Mwaepe, Gazi, and Vanga. And in all these areas, we have identified critical areas for landing sites, and some of them are at the level of connecting water and power, and some of them are at the level of advertising for construction. The only challenge there has been the issue of land, but the governors are sorting that, and then we are able to do those investments. The other thing we have done with our development partners, we recently concluded a process where we are also providing new boats to the beach management unit, and currently we have provided new boats, actually 26 boats in the 5 counties of the coast region. We are also working to ensure that we transform the BMUs into cooperatives so that we can link them to financial institutions. So we have mapped out the entire country and identified 445 BMUs that we need to transform into cooperative societies. For example, in the Lake region from Migori, we are working around Sori, where we have a landing site. We also have another landing site we'll develop in Nyandiwa in Homa Bay. We have Mulukoba in Busia. We have Ogal and Asat in Kisumu. We have Wichlum in Siaya, and also Luanda Kotieno. So these are areas that we have identified for basic value addition. And in fact, we are working with the counties on those projects. In Lake Turkana, for example, we are working with the government of Netherlands because we also want to develop cooling systems for fishermen in Marsabit and Turkana. And that project will be, should be able to give us, has a budget of around 1.5 billion. So we should be able to work around it, and should be able to give fishermen an opportunity for investments. We also have another program we are working with counties on aquaculture. We have 15 counties in the Lake and Western region, and also in Mount Kenya, so that we are able to develop our capacity in aquaculture. And linked to this, we have a big program that we will be launching soon, the Kabonyo Kanyagwal program, which will cost about 1 billion. So once we launch it, then we are able to enhance our capacity in aquaculture. We are also working with other partners on enhancing our presence in the exclusive economic zone in the Indian Ocean, so that we can be able to inspire our capacity in tuna fishing. And that is why we have the Liwatoni project in Mombasa, so that then it becomes a landing site for vessels that ply the trade in deep sea. And alongside that, we have identified areas that we are working with other agencies to develop fish processing. And we have identified Mokoe as one of the areas, and Shimoni. Already in Shimoni, we have a 2.6 billion fish port, which is being spearheaded by KPA. And that we feel it will be able to inspire investments. We have just, we are also sending our officers in Taita Taveta to look at their potential in Lake Chala and Lake Jipe. So basically, Mr. Speaker, even though the question came as a surprise, I thought it was important that I give it an overall presentation so that members and the country can also benefit from this information. The other question by Senator Nandi on the role of counties, I think the reason we have brought in counties to the discussion on maritime and shipping and the entire area of seafarers is because we don't want the ministry or the State Department to be the one taking everything. We also would like to encourage other actors, especially in the area of training, so that we can be able to have as many as possible Kenyan youth qualifying for seafaring internationally. The other part of the question was what KPA is doing to enhance partnerships with, for example, the ports in Miami. I know overall KPA is having a lot of international networks, but I think the Senate will benefit more if we get my colleague in transport to give you specifics on the partnerships that exist between KPA and other ports in the world. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and honorable members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Waziri. Senator Wakili, would you like to ask your supplementary questions?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would like to appreciate the CS for the responses that he's shared with us this morning, particularly with regards to the questions that the honorable members have raised. And more importantly, Mr. Speaker, on the question on the deliberate move by the ministry in creation of the awareness of the courses and the facilities available at the Plenary Maritime Institute. The response, Mr. Speaker, particularly on the statistics, this is where I want to ask my supplementary question. This is under table 2.2 on the number of students who've been trained on both modular and short-term courses. I would like the Cabinet Secretary to give us, if any, statistics on the numbers, whether the beneficiaries of these trainings are local in the sense that I am aware we've got our counterparts in the neighboring countries, especially where we are looking at the East Africa community, whether the statistics provided here are for the locals. And number two, an extension of the creation of awareness, whether there is an extended effort to attract interest from students who are not necessarily residents of the coastline. I'm saying so because I come from a county which is far off from the coastline. This is Bomet County. And I'm very sure a good number of my residents might not, Honorable Speaker, be in a position to understand beyond what they can read about the seafaring as a course and also the benefits that would come by. I thank you.
Waziri.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and honorable members. Honorable Sigei, I want to confirm that the numbers in that table, the trainees in BMA are all Kenyans. And so when you see those figures, those are Kenyans that have been trained. The second part of your question, I think I want to confirm that the awareness program is targeting the entire country. In fact, you will be surprised that the last recruitments, I think there are quite a number of other agencies that picked it up. And in the eastern region, there has been quite a lot of awareness. So it is not just a coastal affair, but it is covering the entire country. And the State Department of Shipping and Maritime, in the coming financial year, they will do a program for each county. And in fact, when that program is done, we will share with the leaders so that they can also participate in this particular program. We have seen initiatives from different leaders who have been excited by this particular process, and we are willing to work with more leaders in this particular endeavor. Alongside that, we have recruitment agencies across the country, and we'll be able to work with them so that this program does not become opaque, because I think what we had inherited is that it was not very clear to many youth and many Kenyans on how one can be a seafarer. But right now we want to open it up. We want all Kenyans, all Kenyan youth and leaders to be aware of this program, the qualifications and the requirements, so that we can be able to benefit as many Kenyans as possible. Maybe the last point I want to talk about on this issue of seafarers, Mr. Speaker and honorable members, I think what we also need to be aware going forward, as we tap the opportunities, we also need to invest in Bandari Maritime Academy so that it can have the requisite capacity to undertake this kind of training, and not to rely on sea time from international partners. I think going forward, we are working towards making it even more able to undertake these particular trainings, because the most critical in this is the sea time. And sea time, you need a ship so that students can be able to enjoy and have experience in sea time. So I think these are some of the areas that we invite the Senate and other arms of government to work together with us so that we can enhance the capacity of Bandari Maritime Academy. I also want to observe, Mr. Speaker, that going forward, there are other related institutions that are coming up to be able also to support and to enhance the capacity of Bandari Maritime Academy, like in our sister Ministry of Education. They are also doing a maritime and logistics institution, which will be linked to Bandari Maritime Academy to offer courses to Kenyans. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CS. Honorable Senators, there being no further questions, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Minister for his time and detailed answers and for his understanding on some of the questions that were asked that are outside the topic. Bwana Waziri, at this point, we will allow you leave and wish you all the best in your task ahead. Thank you, Waziri.
Thank you very much.
Next order.
Order number 8, motion, state of mental health of police officers.
Senator Boni Kalwale, you are seconding the motion. You have a balance of 14 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a motion that quickly rises to the challenge that we are having within the police. Mr. Speaker, it is almost every day, every week, or several times in a month that we hear about police officers either turning against themselves or members of their families or their own colleagues. Mr. Speaker, even in my own county, just a few weeks ago, we came from such an instance in Lugari constituency where one of my youth who had just joined the police, Elijah, was gunned down by his colleague. Many people take this as criminal activities, but to me, I think there is a deeper problem captured by this motion by the mover. Mr. Speaker, it's very difficult for somebody to turn against a friend unprovoked, a member of the family unprovoked. Police officers are serving under very, very difficult circumstances. If it is houses they do not have, Mr. Speaker, if it is payslip they earn nothing worth talking about, Mr. Speaker, access to health facilities police officers do not have. If it is insurance to meet hospital bills for members of their families, police officers don't have. Even, Mr. Speaker, police officers who are ordinarily expected to be dressed impeccably, they do not have sufficient funds to take their uniforms to the laundry. So the welfare of the police, to me, is a contributor to what many might think, that police officers are mentally unwell. It's pressure. Mr. Speaker, accompanied with this pressure is the police code that accompanies police officers, or rather allows police officers to go home. I have seen on some occasions, you meet a police officer, he's in uniform, all right, around 6 to 7 p.m. in the evening. The guy is drunk, but the guy is carrying a gun. And you wonder if you provoke these officers in the slightest manner and he got angry, what would he do with that firearm? Mr. Speaker, I therefore would like, as I support this motion, to insist that the police officers' welfare must be addressed. Without addressing the welfare of these gallant sons of this country, we are most unlikely going to sort out the mess that we are today seeing in the police force. Mr. Speaker, mental health to many people means somebody shouting around, removing their clothes, and so on. There are other subtle manifestations of mental health which require that within the police force, we must employ a sufficient number of medical officers who should be able to pick out the earliest signs of these illnesses that would then be the ones that eventually end up with the disasters that we see. Granted, we don't have enough doctors in the country, but it's also annoying that we also have doctors who have qualified. The doctors who qualified in the year 2021, the year 2022 from our universities are still jobless. This morning, Mr. Speaker, I've just had one such a doctor, a young man from Likuyani constituency, Sango village. A boy who was a total orphan, a class A little boy, who has meandered his way through the education system until he came out of the medical school of the University of Kenyatta. And the boy, 2 years ago, qualified as a doctor. He has no job. When we are recruiting cadet officers, these are the people the police should recruit, and then as they earn the little salary as probably inspectors or what have you, they are also offering this special service that they are endowed with, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, finally but not least, as I second this motion, I want to appeal to the mover of the motion. This motion is so important that you should go beyond just the motion. You have sufficient material, listening to you when you are moving it, you have sufficient material to move this into a bill so that we can create legislation that can then address the issues that make police officers to break down. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question. Aware that police officers are usually fast responders and are often exposed to traumatic scenes and chronic stresses such as dangerous situations, injuries, and violence, coupled with the need to report and testify about psychological stressful scenes. Cognizant of a survey done by the National Police Service Commission in 2022, which indicated that at least 12 to 13% of the 110,000 police officers have mental health challenges stemming from work-related stress. Concerned that there has been a recent spike of incidents involving police officers, including murder and suicide, which have been linked to the state of mental well-being. Now, therefore, the Senate urges the national government and the National Police Service, through the Ministry of Interior and National Administration, to declare the current mental health situation within the police service a national emergency. 2, to urgently establish a specialized facility to cater for police officers with mental illnesses. 3, develop and implement policies to reduce the stigma surrounding mental health issues within law enforcement agencies and encourage officers to seek help when needed. And 4, to prioritize mental health as a priority health and social economic agenda within the police service, and that in cases of deployment and transfers, the service considers the health of affected officers. I call upon senators to make their contribution. Senator Samson Cherargei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I want from the onset to congratulate Senator Amida Kibwana, for this wonderful motion, Mr. Speaker, sir. I think it is rare for people to defend the police officers. It is very rare. And I think for us who have had nasty experience with the police, Mr. Speaker, sir, which are left some of us with long, lasting life trauma, Mr. Speaker, sir, is the police. So I want to thank Senator Amida Kibwana. Mr. Speaker, sir, Kenyans should know that police officers are our friends. They are the custodians of law and order in the country as per the law. They protect and ensure most of us sleep soundly and walk around feeling protected. As members of parliament, and just like any other state officer located with bodyguards, Mr. Speaker, across, I think, 78,000 police officers in the country. You see them in controlling traffic. You see them arresting people, maintaining law and order, Mr. Speaker, sir. And therefore, I think it is very important. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the last session, which you were part of us in that last session, the former senator, nominated Senator Sylvia Kasanga, at that time moved the mental health bill then, Mr. Speaker. And we had a debate. We were saying mental health issues is becoming a problem, not only to ordinary Kenyans, but to a number of police officers, Mr. Speaker. So you have seen in many cases where police officers either shoot themselves, shoot the public, shoot their colleagues, as Senator Kalwala said, and continues to be sad, Mr. Speaker. And most of it is because of depression. It's because of mental issues, Mr. Speaker. And I think it behooves the CS of Interior and Inspector General of Police to sit down and agree. Mr. Speaker, some of the reasons is because of earning pay. And I'm happy that the government has formed a task force that is being chaired by former Chief Justice, retired Emeritus David Maraga, who is continuing around the country. Because we were told some of the reasons police are frustrated is because they are poor working conditions, Mr. Speaker, and also they are, Mr. Speaker, they are earning a salary. And I'm happy that the President is committed in reviewing their salary. And I hope it will assist because, Mr. Speaker, the reason most men and people feel inadequate is because they can't provide for their families. Mr. Speaker, is the poor working conditions where we have seen issues of relationship within the police force. Mr. Speaker, we have been, at that time, we visit a number of police stations. They are in pathetic conditions, Mr. Speaker. Personally, I've been several guests of the state in the previous regime. I can confirm to you, Mr. Speaker, it's not the nicest place to be. You hang around with the cockroaches, you hang around with not friendly individuals, Mr. Speaker, after morning. And I can confirm you, even putting a coat of paint, the toilets that are there, Mr. Speaker, is in pathetic condition. So you can imagine if we were working as members of parliament in such a situation, Mr. Speaker, and you know they are arresting each and everybody, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I also believe they are poor working conditions. Most of them, Mr. Speaker, most of the police officers live in tin houses where they share rooms with only a bed sheet, Mr. Speaker. And when it comes to the God-given assignment of the night, Mr. Speaker, you can imagine there is a single police officer in the other side of the bed sheet that has been separated, and there is the newly married police officers. And we have had cases when the newly married police officers are on the night patrol, then the single officers might be on the night patrol on the beds. Mr. Speaker, it's very, and this is what is causing people to have mental, we need to create police officers. Mr. Speaker, there is pride in protecting the country, in maintaining law and orders. And these are conversations as a country we must want us to have, Mr. Speaker. We have seen even people, police officers taking a gun, they go and drink because of differences in relationship, Mr. Speaker, they end up. And I think it boils up to the depression, the mental wellness of the police, Mr. Speaker. So I want to call also, we must improve on the housing. I'm happy the President is pushing on the house levy fund. which is 25%, Mr. Speaker. And I've seen, and I empathize and sympathize with my brother, Senator Bhone Khalwale, over the weekend in some funeral, our government whip, and I want to thank him for standing with the government agenda, is that many people misunderstand, Mr. Speaker. We need this housing levy fund. You know, part of it I've just said, we want each and every police officer to have a nice house, to enjoy their privacy, Mr. Speaker. But the moment when you walk, and I hope at the end of this motion, Mr. Speaker, sir, Senator Amida Kibwana and the national security team must visit some of these police stations and look at where these police officers live. We need to implement the housing levy fund. And the president has just requested 3% or 2,500 at maximum for people who earn more, Mr. Speaker. And I don't see why members of parliament who are in this house opposing house levy fund, yet they have that 6 million on house mortgage, they get 7 million car grant, they get 7 million car loan, we earn almost $1 million plus, including allowances, Mr. Speaker, and mileage allowances. And I don't find any reason why we should not even surrender 2,500 and allow government to build affordable housing to our police officers, Mr. Speaker. Because the biggest thing in police officers, Mr. Speaker, apart from salaries, is the issue of housing. And I think, Mr. Speaker, they have families. They have children. They need their privacy. How can we do that without having affordable housing, Mr. Speaker? And I know Senator Okiya Mutata had said he has drafted a petition that is going likely to move to court, and I'm happy he's in the House. I hope he uses the floor of the House to tell the country why the police should not have affordable housing. And I've seen a wrong misnomer where people are saying, Mr. Speaker, that we have our own houses. But they are not telling the country that majority of 6.5 million Kenyans live in slums and pathetic condition, undermining Article 43 on the right to basics like food, shelter, and housing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, finally, because I had only three things, Mr. Speaker, is on the issue of the police establishing, Mr. Speaker. We have gender desk nowadays in the police, or even many others. We have many, so we need to establish a mental health program, Mr. Speaker. You remember, Mr. Speaker, the first responders in any emergency, be it fire, be it shooting, Mr. Speaker, be it floods, the first responders are normally the police. Mr. Speaker, when somebody dies in an accident scene, the people who will come and cover them with blankets and carry with the police vehicles are normally the police. They are also human. They see blood, they see the death on the road, Mr. Speaker. They are the ones who are just on the first scene, Mr. Speaker, sir. And therefore, as human, they are also traumatized, Mr. Speaker. And this boils down to what they do. Sometimes some of them survive, like the issue of Kapedo, where we are having, and we want to thank the government on the issue of fighting against banditry, cattle rustling in the north, and even in the North Rift, and many other areas in this republic, Mr. Speaker. Some of these police officers survive, either with injuries or they see their colleagues being killed in their line of duty, Mr. Speaker, and it is not fair. I think we need to look at the insurance of the police, Mr. Speaker. We need to enhance. I know there is nothing we can compensate with life, Mr. Speaker, because life is sacred. But we must, as a country, when a police officer dies on the line of duty, we must accord the highest honor to that individual, Mr. Speaker, like head of state commendation. Number two, we must ensure that the wife and the children are taken care of by the state, Mr. Speaker, like the KDF. We must ensure that we have a biodata of all the surviving kin, including their wives and the spouses, Mr. Speaker, that are killed in the line of duty, and ensure the government compensate them, Mr. Speaker, and ensure they are given, their children receive the school fees, Mr. Speaker. And even, Mr. Speaker, I was shocked that when a police officer dies, Mr. Speaker, their spouses can chase their money. For example, when they die, the compensation money and the money that they are supposed to be paid to NSSF and others for months, for years, Mr. Speaker. Yet this is a person who was killed in the line of duty protecting the country. But you subject the spouses, the wives, Mr. Speaker, in chasing for their resources, Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker. What is it? We now, as a country, we must be serious. Why would somebody, I thought they should be paid even promptly. They should be compensated promptly, Mr. Speaker. What else do the government need? This was their officer. The officer was killed in line of duty. They have the death certificate. Why would they subject their spouses and children into an ending search to be paid, Mr. Speaker? And it is very sad. Mr. Speaker, and therefore, since members of police service are the first responders in any situation, be it in arresting, be it in ensuring, Mr. Speaker, that they see blood, they retrieve the dead, Mr. Speaker, I bet apart from the people who I had in Shakahola, who continue to exhume dead bodies in Shakahola and mass graves, and it is good there is an ad hoc committee that has been formed by this house, is the police officers. You can imagine, and that is why most of the police officers resort to being drunk. I've had my colleagues saying, some police, they get drunk to drown their sorrows, to escape from reality, to escape from trauma, Mr. Speaker, sir. They don't drink alcohol, our police officers, because they like it. It is because they want to escape from reality of what they're undergoing through, Mr. Speaker, sir. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I support Senator Amida Kibwana. I hope from this motion, we shall transmit to the necessary actors and ensure if there is a policy gap or legislative act, my sister, you should bring us those legislative intervention. We quickly amend as the House and be able to ensure our police officers give in good environment. Me personally, I don't have a problem with police officers. Whenever they have needed me, I've always been available, but they have never given me time to go there. They have ensured they take me there in the breakneck of speed, Mr. Speaker, yet I'm not a terrorist. But I don't have a problem with the police officers, Mr. Speaker. I have moved forward, and I hope in future, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I might have divergent opinion. I saw them arresting Yesu at Tongaren. And I don't know, I always ask the police, why don't they investigate proper before arresting people? And that is why most cases are collapsing in court. Because the police need to do also due diligence, build a case before arresting. I've seen they want to arrest another prophet somewhere in Bungoma. Mr. Speaker, we should not just arrest people for the sake or for national emotions. We must be careful so that the police also exercise that power of arrest in a proper and a legal framework, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, with those very remarks, congratulate Senator Amida and allow other colleagues also to contribute. Looking forward to the outcome of this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Senator Cherargei. Senator Maureen Mutinda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support my colleague, great Senator Amida, for bringing up this very good motion that touches on a very important sector in this country. I want to state, Mr. Speaker, that as a member of parliament, the team that the government has given us is the team from the police force, whose role and mandate is to offer protection and what their mandate partakes as per the Constitution. And I want to state that I do personally appreciate the services of the police. I'm a good friend of the police. Earlier before, I participated in different CSRs with the police by one building and coming up with the police post in one area called Utawala Mihango, which I pride in, Mr. Speaker. The issue that has been tabled by our great sister is in regards to the mental health issue of the police. And who is a police? A police is a human being like you and me. And Mr. Speaker, in the year 2023, as we are, as a country, we are at a point we are discussing a very great sector in this nation. A very important team in this nation. We all know the works that the police do. And when it comes to matters health, it's very critical. We've seen domestic violence occur in different homes, Mr. Speaker. A wife shooting a husband shooting a wife. and people being shot by police officers due to different depression levels that have occurred. And the issue of mental health is very key because even us, we are always surrounded by the police throughout. Even here in Parliament, we always having police 24 hours. It is important to note that their mental health is very key. These are people who also have families like us. And like any other person, the welfare of any individual is very key. What I want to state, Mr. Speaker, is that some of these issues that bring about these mental health issues is mostly on how the police sector is handled. And let me state especially on the issue of promotions. The process that is used to do promotion the way it's supposed to do, at times it's never adhered to. Someone has worked diligently, someone has gone out of their way to do their job very well, and at times they don't get the promotion as they deserve. So tell me, why not then get depressed? Why not then get demotivated? Because the same organization that you work for does not recognize your efforts. It is the high time that the issue of promotions at the police be keenly adhered to as the process required. I want to support my senior colleagues, Senator Boni, when he urges my sister, Senator Hamida, to take this motion to the next level of it being a bill, so that some of these issues can be dealt with long term. The other issue, Mr. Speaker, I want to state that brings these issues of mental health is the issue of police transfer. How on earth, surely, do you just wake up and because you are the commander of that station, the OCS, the OCPD, letters come from right, left, and center because you feel that your junior should move from point A to point B, yet these people have families. I have an example of a case whereby a police has to be moved, yes, their kids are doing their final exams. A case is reported, the issue is explained, but the in charge does not care. So the issue of transfers by police is an issue that needs to be really fairly distributed. It is at times done out of emotions because you are the boss, you are the sir, and then you decide that in the next week you're going to be in a different destination of this country because you just wake up and decide. So some of these issues that are bringing about mental health issues is unplanned transfer issues by the police, something that is very saddening. At the same time, on matters welfare, yes, I want to agree with my brother, Senator Gerald Guy, when he mentions about the housing. It is open, it is out there in the open. I want to stay like in Nairobi, like we have areas like Langata, where we have Jugo Road, where we have houses for the police. And when you look at those houses, yes, it's an indication that in those early times, the ideology was for the police to have good housing structures. But today, as we speak, those houses are not enough for them. Then where do they end up? And that person is in custody of his equipments. And that is none other than the gun. Where does he rest? Then he's exposed. When they live in the houses that they live, they're not sufficient. And further to that, as Kenya Kwanza government, as we support the bill on the housing, we need to understand that it's also going to benefit sectors like the police sector in this country, so that our police can be able to have better environments for them in their working spaces and for their families too. Because like, how do you really hustle to that extent? And at the end of the day, you look at what you bring back home, it's not happy, it's saddening. And so, Mr. Speaker, the housing issue is very key to the police force, and it's a sector that I know through the housing levy, or the housing through the finance bill, that is a sector that is an issue that is going to be handled. As I finish, Mr. Speaker, I am in the Shakahola Ad hoc Committee. I had a privilege 2-3 weeks ago to go to the ground and meet with a very competent team of police handling the Shakahola issue. Yes, one thing I noted, I was happy to see also another team of psychiatrists or counselors, for that matter, that are taking them through counseling because of what their work entails, carrying dead bodies. Of course, not only in Shakahola. Anywhere today there's a dead body, the first line is the police. And this is what they continuously do, because that is their mandate. I want to state also, Mr. Speaker, if you allow, during the Westgate, Mr. Speaker, allow me to say that you came in handy and protected this country. You came in handy, Mr. Speaker, and in your experience, put your life in danger, Mr. Speaker, and protected children and families, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, on for that particular time. The equipments in the police, either a police post or a police station, you find that, Mr. Speaker, they are not fully equipped. A case that we saw in Shakahola, where the police station, Langombaya, you realize the reason why these investigations somehow took some time, there was no mobility. The distance, the surface area is quite big. And so the commander in charge of the station is not able to move on time from point A to point B. So as the Ministry of Interior continues gazetting these stations, they should also ensure maximum equipment to these police stations. In the previous police station that I participated in bringing it up, yes, we had to do CSR to ensure that they have the basics, the seats, the chairs, you know. But it is the high time, that is their office. How then do you go to the Ministry of Interior and find the PSS, the CS, they have the biggest, beautiful desk to operate? What about your juniors down on the ground? How, as a manager, do you become too comfortable and your people, your subordinate, are not? Then how do you expect them to deliver in their mandate? It is the high time. And as yesterday, Mr. Speaker, allow me to say, when we discussed that we are going to do a Senate machinani in Turkana, we said we do not want comfortable places. We want to go down there and have a feel of our nation. It is the high time that even the senior bosses up there need to have a total feel of what is on the ground. And Senator Hamida, I want you to urge, as we planned the Langata prison and visited, then plan. Let us, Senate, visit those stations. Let the government tell us then why is that conditions in that state, that is the minister, so that we can be able to improve and improve in a long-term manner. This issue, these formulas of doing things short-term is not my way of doing things. I believe in long-term solutions, and the best way, I look forward for you tabling a bill in this House that I look forward to support for the betterment of our security officers in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Catherine Muma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for granting me this opportunity to contribute to Senator Hamida's motion on the need to pay attention and do something about the mental health of police officers in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, allow me to begin by saying there is a need for Kenya and for the state, in the first instance, to take the matter of mental health in this country more seriously than it does. Mr. Speaker, we have very few facilities. In fact, possibly only one facility in this country that deals with mental health. And yet mental health is a serious issue, not just among the policemen, but an emerging serious issue among young people. Mr. Speaker, death by suicide is rising seriously among our youth. It is rising seriously among children, but we do not have programs that can actually provide mental health in this country. Mr. Speaker, mental health has been a stigmatized program globally. But in the recent years, most countries are taking on mental health as a serious issue, and the issue is becoming destigmatized, and more countries are investing more money in mental health. We in Kenya need to invest in mental health as a beginning point, not just for the policemen, but as a national program that is of importance to this country. Mr. Speaker, how will we do this? We will only be able to deliver on mental health if we invest in the necessary professions to enable us to carry out or to take care of those who have mental health concerns. We need to invest and give scholarships to those in medical school who pick psychology, medical psychology, who pick psychiatry, and we need to start utilizing our psychologists and psychosocial support counselors who we have in this country but are underutilized, Mr. Speaker. I think the only department that I know of that has absorbed very few of these may be the children's department, and we have a drop within our hospitals. Mr. Speaker, psychosocial support, mental support, psychological support is a valid medical care as any other. And I would want to begin therefore by saying, Honorable Senator Hamida, even as you move this, let that committee begin by auditing how much as a country we are investing in this very important aspect of care for our people. Mr. Speaker, when we come to the police, I wish to say that as representatives of the people, as representatives of counties, the police have no voice. In case you did not know, Mr. Speaker, Article 24 of our Constitution, which limits rights, actually limits the rights of police officers and the rights of our defense officers, that is the army officers, from participating in certain rights. These rights include the right to privacy, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, demonstration, picketing, petition, labor relations, even economic, social, cultural rights, as some of the rights that are limited in respect of police officers. That means, Mr. Speaker, that police officers cannot converge and come together and form a union to ask government to take care of their issues. So I want to thank Senator Hamida for choosing to be a voice for the police officers, because the Constitution limits their right to be able to do some of these things. And it limits their rights because they are police, the police force and the army is our security force that actually signs on to giving up personal rights in order to protect the security of the country. But what are we doing as a country for people who have given up rights in order to protect our security? We treat them as though they are slaves. We treat them as though they are in servitude. Mr. Speaker, they are the least paid. They live in iron sheet houses, many of them. Mr. Speaker, we have stigmatized that profession so that even a child of a policeman does not want to tell people they are a child of a policeman, because they know the society has stigmatized that profession. Mr. Speaker, policemen are one of the categories of our society that live in very poor conditions. It is no wonder that there is a rampant bribery, and it is petty bribery, because what some of those police officers get is basically money to get their food. It's only a few of them who are engaged in grand corruption. But you'll find some of them are actually picking monies to survive, because the conditions of their work make it difficult for them to be able to engage properly. Mr. Speaker, policemen are human beings. Policemen and women are human beings. They have feelings and senses like any one of us, Mr. Speaker. But they are the ones, whereas they're the ones we send to the most glory scenes to actually go there and do their work. And they are expected to work as if they are robots. If we have a fire in any place and people burn, it is the policemen and women we expect to walk there as though they have no feelings and go there to try and secure and pull out whoever is dead. When you have an accident, we expect policemen and women will walk there as though they have no feelings and be able to carry out their work. And after they have carried out the work, lifted bodies that are in deplorable states, taken them to the mortuaries, we expect they should walk home, wash their hands, clean themselves, cook a meal and eat and laugh with us as if nothing has happened. Mr. Speaker, I wonder whether any one of us senators would have the courage to be able to go to an accident scene and be able to lift bodies, some of them in bad states, and walk away as if nothing has happened. Mr. Speaker, we have not deliberately put any money aside to know that these officers need to debrief, need to be able to go through a stage when they are mentally provided the mental support they need to debrief in order to be able to get back and move on. Is it a wonder that we have seen a rising number of cases of violence? A policeman with a gun wakes up and goes and shoots a girlfriend, shoots the wife, shoots colleagues. What do you think is going on in their mind? In my view, it is not that policeman that we should blame. It is our own system that we should blame, because we have not put anything in place to support them. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the finance bill that we have, a lot of billions have been factored in the health sector. Extra billions, that is about 15 billion beyond what was there in the previous financial year. Mr. Speaker, health is a devolved function. What we would want to see this money is being deployed to should be deployed to essential things like setting up mental health services for police officers, not coming up with another scheme of managed equipment that which I believe is about corruption. We already have and have not resolved the scandal on the medical equipment that was bought in the first term of devolution. We are now factoring yet another scheme to buy things that are not required. Some of the things that were bought in that term are still in boxes because we did not look at what we needed to do. Mr. Speaker, if we were increasing this budget in order to take on sincere and key issues, services like taking care of policemen, I would cheer them on. But Mr. Speaker, we need to ask the national executive to look at the key things, because they are supposed to be a people-centered government that should be taking care of the needs of the people. And among the people, I dare say, are the police officers and their families. They are human beings with rights like all the rest of us. But as I have said, because of that limitation that they cannot speak for themselves, I'm urging that this Senate and the committee that will be given this issue and the Ministry of Interior, CS Kindiki, who I know is a human rights lawyer, should actually look into this issue and get this moving. But he cannot work alone. He needs to work with the Ministry of Health that must take the mental health policy seriously, mental health regulation seriously, and we don't just want to see policies in the books. We actually want to see programs. We want to see plans. We want to see budgets beyond one budget of Mathare Hospital, which is completely run down and is not a place that you can actually take anybody. In fact, Mr. Speaker, you will all know that we have jokes. We make jokes about madness. We even make reference to Mathare as a place when we want to demean somebody. We say this one belongs to Mathare. We need to know that each and every human being can only function with human dignity and properly if their mental health is good. If you don't have mental health, it does not matter who you are. You are actually sick, and you are a danger not just to yourself, but you are a danger to society. So we need to embrace the need to invest in mental health. And as we prioritize, we need to remember that the police have no voice, and those of us who are in the legislatures must be the voice of the police. And Senator Amida, I'm requesting that every year we now need to scrutinize the national government budget, both in the health sector and internal security, to see whether these things we are saying are taken seriously or whether Senate is just a talk shop where we speak but nothing happens. I hope that this will be taken seriously, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Andrew Okoiti.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for the honor to address this august House on this very important motion, which I arise to support. The issue concerning the welfare of our security forces and I'm using the word deliberately, and not using the word police, to the security forces as a whole, who are totally neglected in this country. Yet, they are the symbol of the state. Mr. Speaker, sir, above you is the coat of arms. It's not placed on your body. If you go to our courtrooms, the coat of arms is not placed on the body of a judge. It is placed above the judge. If you go to State House, the coat of arms is not placed on the body of the president. It's placed above the president. For none of them qualify to wear the coat of arms. The only person who qualifies to wear the coat of arms is a security officer. Look at all our policemen. They wear the coat of arms. Look at our wildlife officers, the military. All people who ensure that the territory of Kenya is safe for everybody else to operate are security officers. And they are the symbol of the state. That's why only them wear the coat of arms. But can we ask ourselves on what kind of person we choose to put or to pin the coat of arms? When he wears the coat of arms on his head and he's wearing worn-out shoes, he's walking on an empty stomach, his children are not going to school, he lives in a shack. What are we doing to this country? Can we honor the coat of arms and ensure that those people who wear the coat of arms are a true representation of the Republic of Kenya? A policeman occupies a more important place than a president of the Republic of Kenya because he protects the security of this country. And it applies to all security people. He occupies a more important place in terms of status, in terms of necessity. If you look at Article 238 of the Constitution, it defines what national security is, Mr. Speaker. A policeman performs a very important role more than a senator does, because we come after they have secured the country. All of us can come, make noise, fight, do whatever we want to do, but we stand on the back of a policeman, of a security officer, be it in the wildlife service, be it in the forest service, be it in the military, all these officers, and all of them are neglected. I think we have come to a point whereby they need to be looked into. Their welfare needs to be looked into. And this country does not have the resources with which to do that. We can't even begin talking of employment, of housing. They live in condemned structures most of the time. Recently, there was an attempt to throw them out of police stations and demand that they be able to they look for rent and rent houses. And then they're given 9,000 in Nairobi. Where will you get a house for 9,000 in Nairobi? So I think the time has come, and this motion is very important, that we look at the welfare of our security officers and support them.
What is your point of order, Majority Whip?
Sorry, my apologies to the Senator of Busia. I'm not trying to interrupt your flow of thought. It's just standing order number 105. You have to be accurate and specific that the decision to move officers from places of their residence was not done recently. That was a decision by the handshake government. If he doesn't know, let him be informed. And if he knows and is misleading the House, let him withdraw and apologize. The government of William Ruto has not pushed police officers out of housing.
Thank you for the information, but I was not referring to the government in terms of a regime. I'm not referring to any regime. I'm referring to the government of Kenya since independence. It is one, it has never been interrupted, it has continued. So, for Honorable Halwale, thanks for the information, but I was not referring to President Ruto or his administration. I was simply referring to the government of Kenya having removed police officers from police stations. And I'm litigating that matter in court. I got orders staying the eviction of the police officers. So I'm more informed about the issue than Honorable Halwale is, because I'm litigating it in court. I know the dates when it happened, and I'm in no way attributing this to any particular administration. I'm talking about the government of Kenya and the people of Kenya. So when it comes to the question of housing, there's a Housing Act. We don't need another law. The Housing Act requires the employer to provide adequate accommodation for its employees. And it is Section 31 of the Employment Act. I don't understand why the government does not apply that as regards police officers and other security personnel. I would have stopped there except for the challenge I was given by the Honorable Chererge that I comment on what is not before this House and what will not come to this House, which is the finance bill. I'm comfortable addressing the finance bill where I can be effective. In this House, when I address the finance bill, and the finance bill will never come to this House to be discussed, I'm fighting in the wrong arena. I'm like the American wrestling. When you see the American wrestlers, where you throw your opponent out of the ring and begin clobbering him out there, the referee doesn't see that. So commenting about the finance bill here is like an American wrestler wrestling outside the ring. So for me, for as long as the finance bill will not come here, the only arena I can engage the finance bill in is outside this House, not in this House. I would have used a more graphic image, but we are on national TV, and prime time is not past midnight, and I'm sober. And by the way, one thing I share with President Ruto is that we are always sober. I don't take any intoxicant, and I know the President doesn't take any intoxicant. So for the information of Mr. Halwale, who may occasionally take intoxicants, I'm closer to President Ruto than you are. So I will not comment on the finance bill. So I will not comment I will not take up the invitation to fight that Honorable Chererge made. But for the avoidance of doubt, I'm heading to court, which is an arena outside this House. If the bill was coming to this House, I would have waited to comment on the bill and to try and fight it in this House. But because it is not coming to this House, it will only be in the National Assembly. And by the way, I'm even in court trying to fight that it should come to this House. But that's another story. But because it is not coming to this House as matters stand, I'm going to engage with the bill in court and watch this space. Have your Jamhuri. After Jamhuri, it's a new ball game. We'll be engaging frontally with that bill on the issues that that threaten to disindustrialize, to destroy the industrial base of this country, and return us to the caves, the way the war on Iraq has returned Iraq to the caves. This is a war on the Republic of Kenya. It's a fight for the soul of this country, and we are not going to shy from it. We don't have another country, we only have this country. And so those who are inviting me for a fight, let us meet outside this House, where you enjoy no privileges. And it will be a bare-knuckled fight. There will be no kid gloves. It will be bare knuckles. And I don't blink. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Beth Siengo.
Asante sana Bwana Spika kwa kunipa nafasi hii kuchangia kwa mswada ambayo ililetwa na dadangu rafiki yangu Senator Amida. Hii ni mswada ya maana sana. Kwa sababu gani? Jambo la kwanza, tulipokula Biblia pale kama viongozi katika nchi hii, kila mmoja wetu alipata haki ya kulindwa. Na kwa hakika wanaotulinda ni askari. Na kwa hivyo hapa tunazungumzia maisha ya askari ambao ni wa maana sana nchini Kenya. Ningesema kwamba afya ya kiakili ya askari imechangiwa sana na country ya kazi wanaofanya. Ile kazi wanaofanya iko na matatizo chungu nzima. Wengi kama vile wenzangu waliotangulia kuongea wamezungumza na wakasema kwamba hao maaskari kwa kitengo chochote kile wanaishi kwa mazingira duni. Manyumba zao asipendezi kamwe. Unaona kwamba wanaishi kama wanafunzi walioko sebuleni shuleni na kwingine. Kwa sababu hawana ile tunaita privacy. Hawana ile siri ya kuishi maisha yao kama binadamu yule mwingine yeyote. Wanaishi kwa chumba chote wengine. Kama nchi ya Kenya tumeamua kuweka askari wetu kwa mazingira duni. Jambo lingine kuhusiana na kazi yao ni kazi ambao wanaofanya. Sisi tunapolala kwa kutosheka manyumbani kwetu tukiwa na usalama. Hao ndio ulinda na kuhakikisha tuko na huo usalama. Kuanzia kwa rais, kukuja kwa mawaziri, kama kwetu wa mbunge na wale wengine wote. Tunapofurahia na kulala poa tukiwa hatuna wasiwasi yeyote. Hao askari ndo wako, wengine wanalala msituni, wengine wanalala kwa mashimo kwa maadaki, wengine wanalala mahali kwa miti, wengine wanalala kwa gate, yani kwa lango. Wao wanalinda lango wakati ambao kiongozi wa wengi katika mbunge hii ya seneti Bufighter Boni Alwale daktari analala vizuri kuhakikisha magari yake, mali yake, wanyama wake, watoto wake, bibi wake wengi wako sawa. Kwa sababu askari yako langoni pale akimlinda. Kwa hivyo ni kwa nini tusishughulikie masilahi ya askari wetu Kenya? Jambo lingine, Bwana Spika, nashukuru kwa sababu hii nafasi imenipa na fursa ya kuzungumzia jambo hili ambao ni muhimu sana. Mshahara. Askari anapata mshahara ya 15,000. Akichukua kama ni mkopo anakatwa yote. Mwisho wa mwezi anapokea kama shilingi 1,500 na akona watoto shuleni, akona majukumu ya mboma, akona bibi ya kupeleka salon, akona watoto wa kupeleka shule, anahitaji kula bacon kama mimi. Sasa tunatarajiaje aishi maisha mzuri ya kufurahia akiwa amewekwa kwa mazingira ya aina hii? Kwa sababu tumeamua tusiwalipe vizuri. Kwa nini serikali ya Kenya na sisi wa Kenya tusiamue kama kuna wale wanastahili kupata mshahara nono kubwa ikuwe ni askari wetu nchini Kenya? Jambo lingine, Bwana Spika, ningezungumzia hata sisi wananchi tunachangia askari kuwa wako na matatizo ya kiakili. Kwa nini? Utapata nafasi nyingine hatuwakumbali, ni kama wao si wananchi. Ikikuwa kwamba wao ni sehemu yetu wa Kenya, wanakaa kama wakumbaliki kwa jamii. Kwa hivyo ukiona askari unakata kona. Mara nyingi nikitembea barabarani naona hata kama ni watu wanauza vitu zao, wale wakisikia tu harufu ama kunongonezewa huyo ni askari, anakata kona na kukimbia mbio kama ameona mnyama. Kwa nini? Tusiishi na askari kama marafiki, ni ndugu zetu, ni baba zetu, ni watu wetu kwa jamii. Ingewezekanaje tuweke kama ile mazoea ya kuishi na askari kama binadamu wenzetu, wakumbalike, tuwe marafiki na wao, tuwe karibu na wao bila kuwalaumu kwa jambo lolote. Ukiona askari unasikia anachukua hongo. Ukiona askari unaona kama atashika ama atakamata mtu. Ukiona askari unaona kama ni adui. Kwa nini tusikumbali askari wakuwe kama sisi? Vile sisi wanasiasa kila mtu anataka kutangamana nasi, kutukaribia, kutuomba hii na ile. Basi askari angesikia kwamba hata yeye amekumbalika kwa jamii, basi hata yeye angekuwa na tatizo la kiakili. Lakini matatizo ya kiakili inachangiwa na mambo kuona kama hatukumbaliwi, sisi ni kama si binadamu. Kwani hii kazi tulichagua? Kwani si nzuri ama hitajiki nchini Kenya? Kwa hivyo, Bwana Spika, ningeomba waziri wa mambo ya usalama wa ndani na wote wanaohusika waangalie masilahi ya askari nchini Kenya. Na kwa hakika kama vile dada yetu amependekeza kwa mswada huu, hakika ingewezekana hata kama ni hospitali njengwe ambayo mahali yeyote akionekana akona tatizo akimbizwe na aundumiwe vilivyo, kuliko kuachiliwa na kuanza kuchekelewa na kuanza kulaumiwa na kuonekana kama afai na kama ni makosa yake kuwa vile alivyo. Ningesema Bwana Spika kwamba tunajua kwamba askari polisi pia wako na cheo na wengine wanafanya kazi kwa changamoto mingi sana. Wale askari wa kitengo ama wa kiwango cha chini huwa wanakanyangiwa hapo chini, wengine wamefanya kazi miaka nenda miaka rudi, hawapandishwi cheo kwa sababu kama wanjui ni nani kwa nani aliye wapi ama who is who, basi hao wataendelea kupitwa hapo, wapandishwi cheo na hakuna mtu anatambua kazi wanaofanya. Kwa hivyo wao wengi watapatwa na matatizo ya kiakili, maana anashindwa atafanya kazi kwa kiwango moja tu, apandishwi. Kama alianza kama private member anaendelea tu mpaka mwisho. Mimi babangu alikuwa askari, ndugu yangu ni askari, na ndugu mwingine ni askari, brother in law ni askari, na mwingine ni askari, jirani yangu ni askari. Lakini natinzama na kuwahurumia. Ni kazi, lakini haiwaweki kujifunia kuwa kwamba wanafanya kazi. Kwa hivyo ni muhimu tushughulikie jambo hili kwa ufasaha, kuhakikisha kwamba watoto wetu, ndugu zetu, mabwana zetu, majirani zetu ambao ni askari wamewekwa kwa kiwango ambao haitawaruhusu kupatwa na matatizo ya kiakili. Nizungumzie mambo ya mapenzi. Hakika tumeshuhudia nchini Kenya shida nyingi sana kuhusu mapenzi kwa askari. Nasikia huyu askari ameua huyu, mwingine amepiga mwingine risasi. Ni kwa sababu kama amepata rafiki kama binadamu yeyote yule, anataka kumweka kiwango kile cha kufurahisha pia na asikie kwamba anasonga na maisha vizuri. Lakini matatizo ya kimfuko, matatizo ya kuona kwamba anaonekana ni mtu wa kiwango ya chini, inamfanya basi afanye mambo yasiyostahili. Ama wengine wananyang'anywa wapenzi wao na wakubwa wao na hawawezi fanya chochote. Kwa mambo na mazingira na wakati kama huo, basi tutaona askari akiwa na matatizo ya kiakili. Kwa hivyo ni muhimu hii mswada ishughulikiwe, isiishie hapa. Mazungumzo tunayosema siku ya leo isiishie hapa, Bwana Spika. Hatua ichukuliwe, tuonekane kwamba tunajali maaskari wetu, tunajali usalama wetu. Maana tukiwaweka kwa mazingira nduni na kwa mambo ambayo haifurahishi maishani, wanahangaika saa zote, watalinda usalama wetu aje? Ndiposa wengine wanakuwa wanaangukia kwa majaribu ya kuchukua kitu kidogo, si mapenzi yake, huenda ikawa hata imani yake na dini yake imruhusu afanye hivyo, lakini atajipata kwa sababu ni binadamu na akona mahitaji, ataangukia kufanya mambo yasiyostahili na sio vizuri. Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, nimeshukuru sana maana nimeunga mkono huu mswada na kusema kwamba hatua madhubuti ichukuliwe kuhakikisha kwamba askari wetu hawana matatizo ya kiakili, na wale kwa bahati mbaya wanapata matatizo ya kiakili wanashughulikiwa ipasavyo. Asante sana Bwana Spika, nimeunga mkono.
Senator Mohamed Abdallah Shakila.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this motion by Senator Hamida. Mr. Speaker, police are the very important beings in this country, and they are supposed to serve under good shape. It is very dangerous for a police to serve under the wrong state of mind. And this is something very serious. If we have 12 to 13% of our policemen who are mentally affected, then we are actually playing on the dangerous zones. Mr. Speaker, I want to start with the training barracks of the police. The police barracks and the environment, it needs to be improved so that they are trained under the good relation whereby when they get out of those trainings, they have been trained to perform their duty in a good manner so that they create a good relation and attitude between them and the citizens. But I think you realize these people, when they get out of their training zones, they come out as bulldogs. They are so charged such that when they get you with something slight problem, they will pass with you. I think this attitude goes with their training. What they need, their training should be changed so that they are given an environment whereby it's a friendly environment. They are trained to be friendly to the citizens and be accepted, not to be isolated. Because, Mr. Speaker, when we went to Shakahola, we were told that people who are being rescued, when they see police, they would run in the bush. Their mentality is that this police has come to arrest me. They do not feel that the police are here to rescue me. They feel they are there to arrest them. So I think the attitude between police and the citizens is causing a big problem, so that it even puts these police under the mentally problem whereby they feel isolated and not accepted by the society. Mr. Speaker, sometimes the police are forced to act and work illegally against the law. And these instructions, sometimes they come from their bosses, against their will. And those are the things which they disturb most of these policemen, because they are working against the law. They are doing things in, actually their level of accountability is very low because they operate in impunity. And they are sometimes, it's not their choice, they are forced to do such things. So I think it starts from top to bottom. You cannot be a bad example in your family as a father or a parent and expect the child to behave in a better manner. If a police is being told, go out there, go and look for money and bring to your boss in the end of the day this amount of money, how do you expect that police to work with the law or within the law? So it is actually, this mentally problem contributes to a lot of things, Mr. Speaker, and it should be looked in different angles if we need to really improve. And these police, when they come out from barracks, they are supposed to be checked mentally, and there should be a way of them to be checked every year. Their mentally status should be checked every year. It should be a routine such that we need to establish who is working under what state. Because police brutality has become an order of the day, and sometimes it's not their wish to act in the manner they are acting. But because they are not checked, nobody knows what status they are in. That's why you realize the police brutality is actually taking a big cause in this country. It's kind of normal thing, and somehow they get away with it. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a very important motion. I really support it and applaud Honorable Senator Hamida for bringing it up, and I hope this Senate will pass this motion and make it a law to improve the status of our police. And not only the status of police, and come up with regulations or amend the existing laws to add things like which will help them in terms of their training, in terms of their status of mentally, that they need to be checked, that they should be checked after what period of time, so that we make sure the police who are in operation, they are in good shape. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Paris Tobiko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the motion by Senator Hamida and congratulate my sister for coming up with this very timely motion, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I doubt that any member of this House can oppose this motion because, Mr. Speaker, our police, we all know the environment that our police live in. We know the environment that they work in. We know the situations that confront them on a daily basis. Mr. Speaker, we have seen them at work. I can almost equate them with doctors, Mr. Speaker, because the kind of ailments, patients that are taken to doctors may be the same patients or sometimes even worse, because the police are expected to be the first people on an accident scene where maybe lives have been lost, maybe bodies have been, turned into pieces, and they are to collect the pieces, and they are to carry the pieces for post-mortem, services. They are to get the injured to hospitals. And Mr. Speaker, also, in situations where, situations of crime, whether it's domestic or any other, very ugly incidences, the police are supposed to be there, Mr. Speaker. And because of that, Mr. Speaker, our police on a daily basis face very psychological, traumatizing situations, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, I think this motion is timely. The mental health of the police need to be addressed. Their living conditions need to be addressed. Their working environment. At least we need, because we may not be able to save them from the job, because somebody must do the job, but we can help to make it, bearable, Mr. Speaker. We can help, Mr. Speaker, by government providing counselors, maybe even at every police station, that there should be a resident counselor who talks to the police on a daily basis. Well, how was your day today? This situation was like this. And even their own, personal lives, Mr. Speaker. The living conditions of their families, Mr. Speaker. What they are going through, Mr. Speaker. I think if we were to have a resident counselor at every police station, Mr. Speaker, a lot of consequences of these psychological traumas that we see from the police, suicide and murders, shootouts, can be limited or can be reduced to manageable and minimal levels, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have seen countries where the police are well taken care of, Mr. Speaker. I have ever seen, in South Africa, police coming into, 5-star hotels and taking their meals there. I think the government caters for that. And you can, I was like, wow, if this was to happen in Kenya, that they have meal vouchers, that they can go into, the best of hotels in this country, eat, walk out, ride in comfortable vehicles, have their families and live in better conditions, have their children attend, the best of schools. I am sure they will also provide the services to us, in reciprocation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, they do all this for us. Mr. Speaker, I imagine none of us would want to see a Kenya in one day, one single day, maybe even have a day without police. It will not be livable. It will not be livable at all. Not our towns, not our rurals, not our roads, not our institutions like right now in this parliament. I know we have police all over, right from the gate to others waiting for us in our vehicles. Mr. Speaker, I imagine that, as leaders, we should think of these people, that the environment we try to make better for ourselves every day, we should make it also equally better for the police. The salaries, Mr. Speaker, must be addressed. I think the police are the lowest paid of the civil servants, Mr. Speaker. Yet, maybe they are the ones that handle, the most taxing, the most difficult of jobs that we have in this country, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, I do support my sister that the mental health of the police need to be addressed, their living conditions need to be addressed, their working conditions need to be addressed, and we, the rest of us Kenyans, also need to be law-abiding. If we become law-abiding citizens, we will make the job easier for the police. We will make life bearable for the police. So I guess if we all become, good citizens.
Senator Tobiko, will interrupt you.
Yes.
You would have a chance to continue your contribution when the motion comes up again. You have a balance of 8 minutes. Honorable Senators, it is now 1 p.m., time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate therefore stands adjourned till today, Wednesday, 31st May 2023 at 2:30 p.m.